So we're going to call this meeting to order. We're here for the Education, Environment, and Sustainability Committee meeting Wednesday, March 25th, 2015. And can we have a roll call?
Calling the roll, Ms. Simon.
Here.
Ms. Brown. Here. Mr. Jones. Mr. Jones is absent. Mr. Shrine.
Here.
Mr. Brady. Mr. Brady is absent. There is a quorum. Also like the record to reflect that Councilman Miller is in attendance.
Thank you. Is there any public comment related to the agenda?
No, Madam Chair, no
Okay.
one signed in.
Okay, so we have minutes from December 3rd, 2014, and can I have a motion to approve the minutes?
So moved.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, minutes are approved. Way back December 3rd. So today, we are here now becoming our, I guess, annual presentation from College Now, by College Now, to be able to give us an update on what's happening with our scholarship money and see where we want to go and basically its status. So do you want to come up to the podium, whoever's going to present?
Good morning, everybody. I'm Lee Friedman, and I'm the CEO of College Now. Happy to be here and tell you about the really great result that we're having as a result of your generous investment in our students in Cuyahoga County. So to just give you a little recap, for those of you, and I think Councilwoman Brown, do you know much about College Now? Let me give you quick, because they've heard it a million times. College Now is the first college access organization in our country. It was established in the late 60s when a very wealthy anonymous donor wanted to pay for a college education for every student coming out of the Cleveland Public High Schools. And they put a fund together in 66, called it Cleveland Scholarship Program, and a year later they'd given away almost no money. And they found out that the reason they hadn't given any money away was because the kids were not on a track to go to post-secondary education. They had not done all of the things you need to do in high school: coursework, ACTs, fill out applications, fill out the FAFSA, which is the federal financial aid documentation, look for scholarships. And you don't just show up when they're seniors in high school and say, okay, boom, let's start this now, because it's too late. So they took a year off, and they brought kind of the best and the brightest minds, educators, counselors, and what they did is they hired a team of people that worked for the then Cleveland Scholarship Program, I'll just keep calling it College Now, that were trained in college access, college guidance, and financial aid counseling. Because again, the students mostly being served were low income, first generation, non-college going or post-secondary cultures in their families, and so the families couldn't really help, and it really started to work. If you fast forward all these years later, College Now does three things. The first is we advise 25,000 students and adults in high schools, libraries, community centers around Northeast Ohio. Most of our work is in Cuyahoga County, but we now have presence in Lorain, Akron, Barberton, some other places. But we have a daily presence in Cleveland, East Cleveland, Parma, Lakewood, Euclid, and then a lot of other suburban districts. Parma is the newest addition, which I'll explain later. And that helps those students not only get on a college-going track defined by post-secondary certificates. You could get the welding certificate, you can get the 2-year degree in nursing, you could get the 4-year degree. It's all of that. Today on college campuses, we've helped those 25,000 students get $150 million. So just this year, every year it's $150 million or something like that. And it's because we unlock the door to help them, and it's that access. The second thing we do, which is the bucket you're falling in right now, is we do give scholarship dollars out, and we manage scholarship programs for about 110 entities around our community, including Cleveland City Council, the county, Sherwin-Williams and Eaton, and family foundations, things like that. And the last piece of what we do, which you also participate in, is we're heavily focused on retention and mentoring for the students in school. For low-income students, which is the group we're funding here, all of our funding, not just yours, low income meaning they're Pell eligible, and they're usually first-generation college goers, and they've had a certain academic threshold. Nationally, for those students, there's a 15% likelihood that they will finish college on time. Our students are in the high 60s against that same set, and we are delighted with that. And we do that because we have a team of people that are on our staff that stick with the students while they're in school. And now, and this is the last couple of years, we pair them with a mentor in the community, somebody in the business community, or maybe even a stay-at-home mom or dad who had a college degree. And we're starting to see that really have huge results. So we're up to 750 mentors and mentees, and next year it'll be 1,100 mentors and mentees coming from 250 different companies. So this is it takes a village approach, and it is working. The mentoring program alone, we're starting to see persistence rates in the 80s, which is almost unheard of for the entire population, let alone, or even the top quartile, let alone the low-income population. So that's part of the work you're funding, is to make sure every kid has a mentor. So that's sort of the fullness of the work. I could go into a lot more details about the economic need, but I think all of you are very familiar with the fact that Ohio's not competing nationally and our region's not competing. So Ohio's the 7th largest state. We're 39th in educational attainment. So in Northeast Ohio, there are 70,000 unemployed people and 40,000 open jobs. And that's because there's a total mismatch on skill set. And there's no community that has a perfect match, but ours is way out of whack. And in particularly in manufacturing and allied health, we know particularly, and our companies won't grow here, and I know, Councilman Sean, you know this better than anybody, that if you can't find somebody to work in your factory, which now requires more than a high school degree, maybe just a certificate, but more than a high school degree, if you can't find that person, you can't grow, you can't keep producing the goods. So it's a national problem. The United States is now 15th in educational attainment. We were number 1 for generations. We've really slipped in the last 5 years, and we're seeing a decline in enrollment nationally and a decline in enrollment in the state and locally. So why the decline? I think there's a couple things. One, it is true that the job market's better now than it was a couple years ago. And so some people may be making the choice to work, even if it's low wage work, than go to college. That said, we also know the cost of education has exponentially grown even past healthcare costs. So we were just looking at some statistics. In 1974, when the Pell money really got going from the federal government, and this is in kind of constant dollars, Pell was about $4,800, and then the average gap for the student after that was about another $4,000. So that meant, Cleveland State gave them $2,000, and the county gave them $2,000, and boom, we're good, or whatever it was. The kids could go, and they didn't have big debt. In 2014, the gap has grown to the point that the Pell money is about $4,500, about the same $4,800, and the cost is $20,000. Can't fill the gap. So we know affordability is a monster-size issue. When I got to college now in 2010, the average gap for the kids that we fund, just the ones we fund, that's about a couple thousand to 2,500, 3,000 kids, was $6,000 a year per kid. So now we got to take out loans if we can get a loan. And so that, fast forward that, 30 grand or whatever it's going to cost. Now, college now gives out more money, larger dollars per kid, and the average gap is $9,800. The state of Ohio's cut some of this, and the Pell money is spread out over more semesters or less semesters. And the costs keep going up. It's impossible. So what the county is doing is beyond helpful, and we are seeing great results. You have funded 2 cohorts of students, and I'm going to give you a little bit of good information. Cohort 1, which are now sophomores, correct? Yeah, are sophomores. There are 63 students in that cohort. 81% of those students have persisted to sophomore year against the national average of 58 for the same set of kids. So that is fantastic. And they're all over Cuyahoga County. Their average grades is a 2.86, which is also really good. So it's working. They're all paired with mentors. The mentors are not only helping them navigate college and make sure they don't run into bumps that they don't, who's the registrar and where are the office hours and those kinds of things. But very soon, those mentors will start talking to those students about resume writing, getting hooked up for internships. We do a big mentoring fair every year, a mentoring event where we had last year 35 local companies come to meet the kids. So it becomes also starting to get those students a little personal board of directors. If you come from a low-income, non-college family, and now you want to go into finance, and you have a 2.8 from Cleveland State in finance, your resume is going to be at the bottom of the pile at KeyBank, unless somebody can help you navigate. And so that's a hidden benefit to the mentoring program. We're really excited about it. And the companies in our town love this. This is the student they're looking for. They want students that are diverse, that are successful and are doing well and will finish, and this group is that. So it's really great. We're thrilled. Cohort 2 is just freshmen. So this is the group you funded last year. You increased your gift, and there's now 70 students in that cohort. 100% of them returned for their second semester freshman year, which is, what do we know what that would be like against our normal? That it's unbelievable, 100%. It's like unheard of, actually. So we're thrilled, absolutely thrilled. So where are we today? So we start asking Cuyahoga County students to apply for our scholarships. And the good news is a lot more kids have applied, lots and lots more kids. We are expecting this year, we've had applications from about 270 students. Last year it was like 210-ish, 218. Last year we selected 179. And so we've been able, with your gifts, we've been able to fund like upward of between, last year it was 87%, the year before it was 94% of the kids applying. We are seeing way more applications, and one of the reasons for that is College Now partnered with the Ohio Board of Regents. We went to them and said, we need to apply for Gear Up. This is a federally funded Cadillac kind of program. Remarkable results in terms of because the dollars are so rich, what we can provide for the kids in any school system that has Gear Up. We did it in Elyria a number of years ago, and we saw that college going rate soar. We wrote the grant for the state. College Now does the technical assistance for the state, and we run a site. We were one of 10 states to get it, so we were thrilled. And Parma is our site right now. It'll be there for 7 years. We're already seeing our applications jump. Last year, we had 205 applications, qualified applications. In other words, deserving students. This year, we have 270. So I think one of the questions we have for you is to ask for your interest in funding more students. We're kind of throwing out some numbers here, but last year you did 500,000. If you do 640,000, we can fund, I think, an additional, an additional 20. If you ask me, because I know Councilman Strawn's going to ask me this question, what would you need to fund the entire cohort? We would need another $1.1 million. That would, in other words, every kid that's qualified would get money. Now, I'm not suggesting you do that. I don't even know that you have the resources, but I know you might want to know the context. But that if every student in Cuyahoga County that's applying for this who is qualified, that's what the number would be. It would be $1.1 million. But we were wondering if maybe you'd do 640, just to, they're all deserving, and we'll pair them with mentors. And I think maybe I should stop now and see if you have questions.
Any questions from the committee? Mr. Strawn?
Thank you, Madam Chairman. The program that we put in place 2 years ago has a component that says the student will be selecting a Cuyahoga County school, and that's still the program that's in place now.
Exactly.
And one of the concerns we had, or that was expressed, was would we have enough viable candidates that we would have a pool sufficient? And my belief was we would. And now I'm just asking you, is that still the case with last year's students that stayed? I mean, the results, you can't have any higher percent than 100% going from first semester into second semester. So from that by itself, the results are speaking volumes of positive aspects. But were they qualified candidates on the upfront side too?
Yes, I mean, I'm 99% sure, but Bob, I'm right that if we funded every student that has applied, 270, all of them they have selected schools in Cuyahoga County or could with this money. Now, if they don't get this money, let's say you fund 200 students, not 270, whatever the number is, I don't know in the end if those kids would choose Cuyahoga County or somewhere else that'll give them a bigger package. It's hard for us to know that because we won't have any way to measure it. But there are 270 students that are qualified and that would stay in Cuyahoga County as have applied.
And we didn't lower our standards.
Oh, no, we don't lower.
That's where I'm going.
We did not lower our standards.
Our
We never.
standards for the kids who actually went last year and stayed for the second semester.
It's the same standard.
Okay.
We never budge our academic standard because we are not setting students up to fail. The standard is an 18 on the ACT and a 2.5 and low income, Pell eligible. So you have to meet all three tests. And we don't change it because, again, if somebody has a 16 on the ACT and they want to go to Cleveland State, we know they're not going to succeed. It's not helping them. We're better off helping them with a different path and then continue to work on readiness so there's a lot more kids that are ready.
Yeah, the first year, as I recall, you had already selected your group of students, and then you came to the county and asked for funds.
For the kids we hadn't
And we
selected.
put that criteria in there, and it worked that first year. It sounds like the second year, it even worked even, I don't know how you can do any better than 100%. So the second year, it even sounded like it performed even at as high a level as you could actually expect.
The result is great. Do I think when we look at this in 4 years, the kids that 100% went from freshman to sophomore year, did they finish it? They won't.
That's a different question,
But
yeah.
that's even national. It's only 55% for all students. But we're hoping with this mentoring program, our goal is an 80% completion rate, and that would be earth-shaking nationally for this set of students. For, again, low income. The average family income of the kids we're funding for a family of four is, I don't know, $35,000, $40,000 a year? $26,000 for a family of four. These are the most needy students in our county who have defied every odd to get to this place, and then look how well they're doing. So, sometimes, not this body, but I'm just sharing with you, sometimes I stand in front of people asking for this kind of money, and they look at me and they go, well, those kids, they're not qualified, they can't do it. That's not true. You just have to give them the support.
And are they all coming, they're all coming from Cleveland?
Cuyahoga County.
Okay. Do we have any track record as far as Cleveland Municipal Schools or whether any of the charter schools, whether we're getting results one way or the other? I mean, obviously 100% is 100%. So could you give us the demographics of what makes that?
Let's see, I
Those
think I
kids
have
last year and their
Where they're coming
orientation?
from?
Yeah.
Well, let's see, do we have that broken down like that? I could tell you what high schools that are served, but do I have it down by how many kids from each school? So, as I think you recall, in order for them to get the scholarship, they have to be in a school where College Now is in the building.
Right.
Because otherwise they don't get the support and then they don't do well. And we are in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. Roughly 35 schools in Cuyahoga County. That's including parochial schools, et cetera. Obviously, we're in some very big school districts. Now, I think the big increase on these applications is Parma, which I'm sorry, Councilman Durant isn't here because I know he was concerned about that last year, and we kept telling him we'd work on it. We worked on it. We really have an unbelievable thing going on there right now. But East Cleveland, Cleveland. So the biggest set of applications, although it is pretty equally divided. I know we did this, and I don't know if I have it with me, but we can get it for you. The geographic distribution of the money is definitely over the whole county. That said, because again, low income is a criteria, you're finding, there's more money going to East Cleveland, Cleveland, Euclid, Parma, Lakewood than there is in Beechwood, although there are kids in Beechwood and there are kids in Shaker and there are kids in Westlake, all over. I'm not giving you everything you need.
But I'd love to get the details as
Yeah,
far.
we can get
and
it
then
to
even
you.
if you can slice the Cleveland Municipal Schools into the buildings they're coming out of so we can see whether is Max Hayes having a contribution? Is Collinwood having a contribution? Are they coming out of the STEM schools? So we can actually see.
Well, I think, let me make sure I I'm going to get to the answer to your question. I think you would be better served if we showed you where all the College Now dollars go. Because remember what we're doing in part? If somebody else is going to fund the Cleveland kid, and we have tons of money for Cleveland kids, we're probably not using your money too. Is that correct?
It's our money.
Right.
It's our money, yeah.
Yeah, your money too, the collective money. You know what I'm saying? Like, in other words, the Cleveland Foundation, the Huntington Fund for Education, the Gun Foundation, they restrict our money to CMSD. My guess is proportionately, we fund tons of kids coming out of CMSD. Your council dollars are going less proportionally to CMSD because I've got other money for that. And that's letting it go into these other places like Euclid, like Parma, like blah, blah, blah. Because, so I think maybe would it be helpful to just show you where all of it is? Because for us, the dollars are a little fungible.
Well, it would be nice to see it both ways, only because.
Okay, we can do that.
Somebody's going to ask us, where did our dollars go?
Absolutely. I understand.
It's nice to know where the Cleveland Foundation dollars went, but I'd much rather know where.
Right.
Where our county dollars and our county college scholarship fund.
That's no problem. We can easily get that for you. I just want to make sure, and we'll do it both ways, because I don't want somebody to look at it and say, well, why aren't you funding the kids in Cleveland? It doesn't make any sense. It's just not, it wouldn't be accurate.
No, I understand. That makes good sense for you to explain it that way. Thank you.
Yeah, sure.
Any other questions? Okay.
If you look at cohorts 1 and 2, am I correct that the money we provided would fund the scholarships for the full 4 years?
We spread the money out. So when you set aside money, we set aside for 4 years. So let's say I'm a scholarship recipient and I'm getting $1,500 from the county council. College Now is setting aside $6,000 for that student, and they get it as they complete and persist, and they have to continue at an academic standard.
Okay, so in cohort 1, you got a phenomenally high rate, but 19% didn't persist into the second year. What happens to their money?
So, and I'm going to have Bob, I think you all passed something last year to deal with that, and that money goes to who?
It goes to new freshmen for this upcoming.
Yeah, new freshmen for the upcoming year. So it plows back into the beginning. You passed that last year. Yeah, I don't know if there's, and you might want to come up because some of this is more detailed.
Coming up, what we passed, we discussed whether that leftover money was going to go toward existing cohorts to increase their
right.
subsidy or opposed to increasing the pool.
Yes,
And we increased the pool.
That's correct. It was the two options was to give the remaining students additional funds or to select new students. This year, we're estimating there's probably about a little over $20,000 left over from that original group. And we would do the same thing as divide that over 4 years and pick, roughly work out to about 4 or 5 additional kids going into this fall semester.
Okay. Thank you.
Sure. And thank you for your support, Councilman.
And a year or two back, I attended the youth summit that was put on by the former county executive Ed Fitzgerald, and he brought in high school students from all over the county, and they were talking about what are the things that high school students need to know that they don't learn in the classroom, and they came up with five broad areas. There were professional skills, life skills, post-secondary education planning, health and wellness, and financial literacy. And my question is to what extent are your mentoring and retention programs operating across the board in all of these areas?
Probably, hard to know exactly what some of it means, like life and some of that, but I could tell you this. Both in the high schools, our advisors do work with the students in particular on financial literacy. We are strengthening our work. We've been doing a little bit in education to career. So in other words, let's not just go without a plan, not knowing what job is out there. Let's get more focused on that. They work with the parents on financial literacy. They work on transition to college. So when the students are in their last of their senior year, they have these transition to college seminars where we bring in this year's freshman class from Glenville, let's say, that, freshmen in college that went to Glenville. And we bring them back to Glenville to sit down with these kids and say, okay, here's what I didn't know. Because when they hear it from us, we sound like mom talking. When they hear it from Sally and John, their old friends, it comes off differently. The mentoring program is curriculum driven, Councilman. It's a very interesting program. It's actually kind of it's been kind of best of class so far, nationally, a new thing. This is a web-based mentoring program. We are, anybody who wants to be a mentor fills out an application. All of you can do it, by the way. And we need more. And you are paired through an algorithm, a little bit like eHarmony. I know, don't laugh. And we'd be paired like, let's say Councilwoman Simon and I were paired. It's probably because maybe I'm going to Cleveland State and you went to Cleveland State. Maybe I am interested in political science and you graduated from political science. That might be one of the reasons. We're paired. We ask the mentor to meet with the student in person twice a year before they go to school in the summer, late summer, and then some other time at their choosing. Some of them meet much more than that. Every pair is different. In the meantime, College Now has a curriculum, and this gets to the things you're asking. We send a prompt to the pair every 2 weeks on a topic that's relevant to that student's point in their college career. So what we're talking about as freshmen is very different than what we're talking about when they're seniors. This gives them something, a common point. A lot of it is focused on time management, aspiration. Some of it at first is very mechanical. Do you know that your professors have office hours? Have you gone to meet your professors at office hours? Do you have all your books? The idea is to help them think through these issues. As their time goes on, it gets deeper and deeper into kind of career exploration and getting ready for jobs. I was with the president of Tri-C yesterday, and they are doing something brand new that I am so excited about. Every student now that starts at Tri-C full-time has to take a first-year experience course, point on to the things you're talking about, literally. And what they're seeing is when those students take that course, it's a requirement now, it's brand new. They are seeing remarkable, better results because a lot of it's career exploration, it's financial, it's all the things you're talking about. He said he's hoping he could take that into high schools. Boy, do I think that would be a fantastic thing if every high school kid had to take the first year college experience class, even if they're going to go get the welding certificate. So we're doing our best with those issues. Could we be more robust at the high school level? We could, but we are doing some of it.
Okay, that's helpful. Thank you.
Yeah.
Any questions from the committee? Sharon?
If you're starting to lay out a path for workforce, are you connecting at all with, no pun intended, with the Workforce Connection Board, because they have flipped their model?
The Workforce Investment Board?
Workforce Connection, which
I
used to be
don't
the
know.
work.
Okay,
it
yeah,
used
okay,
to be
I wanna
the-
make sure it was the same thing.
It's the same thing. It's now under that. It's a joint combination between county and city. And Larry Benders actually flipped the model when he was in charge of it. And it was no longer what is the student interested in, it is what is the employer interested in. So as to map those jobs, if you're talking about thinking job type, it would be, I think, very beneficial to see what jobs the employers are looking for right now, so that you could actually set that in a real world perspective.
Absolutely. And it's funny you're saying that. Again, College Now continues to try to deepen our work to what's needed. So we just had a little strategy review, our whole board. 3 things came out of it. 1, to deepen our earlier intervention starting in 8th grade, so students really have aspiration for why they need to pay attention in high school. That's number 1. Number 2 is adult learners, to reach many more, because there's many undereducated, underemployed adults. But then the last piece that joins it, and we have our first meeting this afternoon with our committee, is this education to career. What is out there? So we will absolutely make it our business to go meet with the Workforce Connection Board.
Yeah, 'cause I think-
Who's running it now?
I don't.
It sits at the county though now, correct?
Well, it's a joint combination,
Yeah.
county and city. They blended them together. at the
We will
bottom.
definitely put that on the list, no question. And we're trying to use the tools that Ohio Means Jobs and all the rest of it, but
All that's blended
we're
together.
looking to align. My goal is that a lot of the students we serve do go to Tri-C in the first year. They don't usually wind up with your dollars, the council's dollars, because they're Pell eligible, very Pell eligible, and for Tri-C, it'll cover it. That said, they get there and they wander around. We want every student that goes to Tri-C to have a real path connected to job. And that will help us quite a bit.
Yeah, because it already exists. They've identified the jobs that are
Yeah,
out there that
good.
the employers are looking for.
It's awesome.
Yeah.
We will do that.
Madam Chair.
I'm going to go with Councilwoman Brown and then to Miller.
Ms. Friedman, you had mentioned that we are helping with the funding for the mentoring program when you did your presentation. Can you just elaborate on how you do
Yes.
that?
So, and we do this with all of our scholarship dollars because we are very committed to completion. So I want you to know that's what drives it. When you give us a scholarship dollar amount, 10% is taken for our overhead costs. 15% for our overhead costs and our mentoring program. It costs about $600 per student for the mentoring program. So we build it in. We truly don't run scholarship programs that don't permit for that because we know I wouldn't be able to come here and give you these success rates. That's how we do it.
My other question is, you said you manage 110 scholarships. Are they all strictly for high school students, or do you help with maybe there's a lady that needs some assistance? She's a quarter or a year away from finishing her
An
nursing
adult
program. Yeah.
Oh yeah. So of these scholarship programs that we run, some of them we have license to use in any way we want. Some of them are restricted to high school students, adult learners, which is what you're talking to, and some of them are for other very specific things. So SwageLock has a scholarship program. It's for the benefit of their employees' children. So of this 110, it's not all available for the same thing. And as this man's a genius in trying to, figure out how to parcel it out, which is why when we originally got your dollars, we can supplant it. This is the original question I was answering for Councilman Schron, that we'll use dollars only for Cleveland kids and then move your dollars to these kids. But we do have dollars for adults. And we have even gotten small dollars. And this is, I know we talked about this last year, I think, when we were changing, what do we do with the leftover? We know that sometimes juniors and seniors got packages of dollars, let's say the Rotary Club or this or that, and then they go away. And sometimes there really is a need to help them finish. And we just had the Georgia State University, their head of enrollment was in last week. They were at like the bottom of the barrel for having student completion, especially for African Americans. In 7 years, they are now like top in the country. And they did a bunch of different things, very interesting. But one of the things they did is they set aside a bunch of dollars for those kids that were so close to finishing, and they needed $200 or $500. And we have it happen, and we do our best to fill the need when it happens.
I guess one last question. So are our dollars strictly for high school students, the money that the county, okay.
Your dollars are for what we call traditional learners, meaning they are finishing high school and they are immediately moving to the next step.
If I can just, before Councilman Miller asks his next question, I wanted to let the committee know, if you don't know, that we have money going to workforce development, the board, which helps close that gap of if students are 12 hours short to attaining their degree, then we have money flowing to close that gap in that way.
That is huge.
So
It's huge, so smart.
So we have $500,000 going to workforce and then the college track. So
Yeah.
it's
You're doing both.
overlaps, but yet there's kind of two separate missions. So we do close that gap that way. Councilman Miller.
Madam Chair, just an FYI, I think Grace Kilbane is the person that you want to see over at Workforce.
Great. Okay. Awesome.
Indeed. Grace Kilbane. Okay, so when you're in a school, do you have somebody there part-time? Do they show up once a week? How does that work? I know Richmond Heights came into the fold, I hope,
Yes.
right?
So every school system is different. it's where the funding stream and how much money is available. So there are school systems when we are there not only every day, we have multiple people. In CMSD, I probably have 30 people there every day in the high school, sometimes 2 in a building. And why? Because CMSD gives us some money for that. Cleveland Foundation, Gun Foundation, and then we apply for federal dollars from the Department of Education, and we're good at competing for them. It's a little hard to know when you're going to get it, but so we have these deep dive programs, Talent Search, Upward Bound. So in a building like Cleveland, East Cleveland, totally federal funded in East Cleveland, Parma, totally federal funded, Lakewood, funded by their alumni association, Euclid, funded by the school district, Akron, funded by the community foundation in the school district, Barberton, the community foundation, Lorraine, there every day, Nordson Corporation. So it depends how the money is parceled out. In the school districts where we're not there every day, we could be there a minimum of 20 days to a maximum of maybe call it 70 or 80 days. And if we're there on a short contract, call it 20 to 40 days, it's usually because they have good college counseling, but they don't have the financial aid counseling. So Ignatius, Beechwood, Shaker, these places have very good college counseling. They can tell you if you want, should you go to Carnegie Mellon to be an engineer, or should you go to Cleveland State, or whatever it is. But they don't know how to fill out a FAFSA, and they don't know how to package the money. So some of those school districts pay us. It's not particularly expensive for them. It's about $400 to $500 a day, depending what we're doing. And they'll bring us in for 20 days, and then we sit next to the guidance counselor. But there's other buildings where you walk in, where's the College Now office, and you'll find somebody there all day long. And we do summer programs now, too, in libraries, so it's fairly robust.
Okay. Yes, Councilman Brown.
How are the schools, determined? Is it strictly by the ones that allocate funds to house College Now representation?
Is that how do we wind up in a school?
Yeah, because I'm curious to know if Warrensville, Bedford, or Bedford Heights has any representation.
Okay, so Warrensville has, and that was paid for by the Brooding Foundation. We believe that they may not be able to renew. Is that correct? Yeah. Bedford, yes. Yes. What was the third one? Garfield? Bedford and Bedford Heights. Yeah. So again, in that case, I believe there's superintendent schools. We go and we literally pound on everybody's door. And we hope they see value. Sometimes they either don't have the money. It's such a small amount of money, it's hard to believe, because remember, if we're in their building, we're also leveraging other scholarship dollars. So if they're paying us $10,000 or $20,000, it's a very little amount of money for the number of kids. Sometimes there's school districts where the guidance counseling staff feels threatened, and they think it's like, because we're not union, it's who knows, it's a bunch of different things. Every year we pick up a few extra, and then sometimes we lost Cleveland Heights for a year, and then they realized they couldn't do without us, and they brought us back in a bigger way. It happens. Warrensville, I'm a little concerned about, because there was a foundation paying for it, and they've moved on to something else. They don't want to pay for it forever. But if you have an entree, and we're happy to go make a presentation, and we go in all the time. So,
I know that the school district is in search of a superintendent, so I know that there's a lot of transition going on there.
Okay.
But one of the programs that Councilman Jones, who's not here, he chairs the Closing the Achievement Gap, and I know that there might be some entryway via that avenue. So
Okay.
that there's a possibility there, and I also have a strong relationship naturally with the mayor, although they're separate entities. So if there's any way that I can assist with making sure that continues to happen, please do not hesitate to ask.
We will definitely. You will probably hear from Michelle Scott Taylor, who is our Chief Programming Officer. She's an alum of Warrensville, and she is this story. I mean, she was sort of one of these kids. Somebody got intervened, and she had a 19 on the ACT. She's proud to say that. Now she has a PhD, and she's an alum of Warrensville, and I know she's been knocking on their door. So I will, if you don't mind, I will ask her to give you a call, because she has some real deep connections there, and she runs our advising. Great.
Thank you very much.
Okay,
We
great.
appreciate it.
Sure,
So,
thank you.
There's no legislation before us now, but there's a question on the table for the committee to consider whether we would want to, first of all, continue on with funding a scholarship to College Now, and secondly, whether we would consider increasing what we're currently giving up to 640. And is there any opinion about that at this point?
I'm a big fan of kids, so you know where I'm going to be on that one. I would try my best to find the 640 to try and give additional support.
Madam Chair.
Be in support of it, so increasing as well, yes.
Miller?
I think we should try to find the money and go to 640.
I mean, when you got when you got the director coming up here and talking about 100% staying from first semester to second semester, those just are numbers that are just astronomical. And they're all Cuyahoga County kids staying in a Cuyahoga County school. I mean, it's a win-win. And,
Madam Chair.
and the likelihood is they're going to stay here and work when they graduate too.
Councilman Miller?
I think the fact that it's just not a scholarship program, but there's so much more that goes along with it, with the mentoring and the retention, I think that's what sets it apart, and we should give priority to those kind of programs.
I don't disagree, and I would like to see the increase. We will be looking at the college kindergarten savings account next week, and I think in conjunction with that discussion, we have to look at, what's effective, what's not effective, and I think what we're hearing is this is effective and impactful. So when we meet next week or April 1st on the kindergarten account, we're going to also discuss how we might be able to fund the additional money to College Now. I think that needs to, we can't look at silos and how we're going to allocate. I think we have to look at both programs together, in my opinion. So you have a deadline, I think it's April 15th, where this committee needs to get this to our full council. So I'm going to look at the schedule. It's pretty tight, but maybe there's a way we can at least work toward this and help with your deadline to make this happen. Okay? Thank you so much. Okay, we'll be in touch. All right. So miscellaneous business, I invited, if we're done with the college discussion, everybody? Okay, good. Thank you so much. We're going to move on just as miscellaneous business. We're going to have an update from Director Mike Foley of our new Sustainability Department, and just asked you to come to give us a briefing on where you're at and where you want to go. And you've only been in now for, at least officially, one day.
Thanks, Councilwoman. I appreciate the opportunity to say a couple words. I'd written a memo to Councilman Greenspan last week. He'd asked for some kind of summary thoughts, and I thought I'd go through that, if that was okay. We've been in existence. The department has been in existence for about 2 months with staff in it, myself and Chanel Smith, who's the deputy director. And so we've been trying to kind of, as I've said to everyone, kind of figure out our place in the world, trying to meet with everybody and anybody to kind of see who's doing what, kind of mapping out, on kind of transportation issues, water issues, energy efficiency, renewable issues, recycling, reuse of materials, kind of things like that, things that are all kind of fallen within the sustainability realm, and have been pretty active in kind of meeting and kind of deciphering who's doing what in Cuyahoga County on a lot of different things. We think that those 4 areas, energy, transportation, water issues, Lake Erie, and the Cuyahoga River, kind of both in terms of pollution and clean water technology for new businesses and just kind of our psyche of living on this green area on a blue lake kind of concept, are things that we think that we in our department we want to be active and smart about. As I said, one of the things that I think that we're going to be focusing a lot on is working on trying to develop a kind of a smarter and more active kind of a base of people being able to access financing and capital for clean energy and renewable projects around energy issues. And so we've been meeting a lot with both kind of business interests, nonprofit interests, local government interests, all trying to decipher, kind of what are gaps, what are needs that you think you need that we at the county can help fulfill, and help you get access to financing around measures such as, how do you, redoing your lighting system, helping people get motors or engines that run their plants in a more efficient way. Maybe renewable energy and solar facilities using power purchase agreements to help write down the cost of their electricity bills going through their business and their maybe it's a local government or other entities that need kind of reduce their energy costs. So we've been meeting with a lot of folks just to kind of figure out where gaps are, where opportunities are, and hopefully we'll have a proposal that that we will bring forward that we'll share with you, and we think there's some opportunities that we will have in the county to help encourage and make the county greener in terms of energy efficiency and renewables. In terms of water issues, there are a lot of projects in the county, a lot of groups dealing with clean water issues, and I think it was like the second week I was here, we had the whole issue with dumping dredged materials from the Cuyahoga out into Lake Erie, which there was a lot of concern and consternation about. So, at least the administration took a position. We opposed the position from the Army Corps, which said that it was okay to dump dredged materials into Lake Erie. We testified both in front of the Ohio EPA and the Army Corps hearings. I think that those negotiations with lots of different parties are moving forward. I think that for this year, I don't think there will be any dumping of dredged materials into Lake Erie, but I think there's got to be a kind of a more ongoing solution that will kind of prohibit it going forward in the future. So I think that the Army Corps has a position that you can take this stuff out of the Lake Erie. It has a PCB content that roughly matches the PCB content of the lake bed, but I think there's a lot of folks that have questioned those their findings, given the fact that we can only eat walleye once a week now caught out of Lake Erie. Especially the Ohio EPA has concerns that if we dump more stuff from the Cuyahoga into Lake Erie, that there is going to be that they may not be able to give us a one per week fish content into our systems, but make it a once a month. So there's real questions about this proposal, and so we're working with a lot of folks on that. Transportation. We're just trying to kind of get our arms around, where we should be assisting or being helpful. We've met with Regional Transportation Authority, RTA, and NOACA. Bike Cleveland is interested in doing a proposal that I think we're going to be working with to do a bike sharing program in Cleveland before the Republican convention. Many cities have bike sharing programs where they've got kind of different ports where you can go put your credit card in a port, jump on a bike, go ride around, go to a meeting or go to an event, and then park your bike at a port that's located next to your meeting site. So we're working with Bike Cleveland and NOACA right now. I think we've got a proposal going in that would where NOACA has some money available for such an endeavor, and so we're working with those guys to help create a bike sharing system. And we'd like to do it before the convention in 2016. And then just kind of just recycling and kind of reuse of stuff that people have. The solid waste district we've been meeting with pretty frequently. And at least one of the things we're going to be doing is they've got a composting program that we're going to be bringing in and asking folks to have them come in and share their program with Cuyahoga County employees at the very least. and people can come in and get educated on composting, and if they want to purchase a composter and take it home and compost their stuff and be able to share it with, hopefully be able to share the experiences with friends and neighbors. So that I think the solid waste district is a very important entity in this county, and they do a good job for some pretty bright people over there, and so we want to be as helpful as possible to them. So I think that's roughly where we're at. 2 months in with 2 staff, we're as I say, we're not trying, and I think Councilman Miller made this point early on, is that there are a lot of good people doing a lot of good work around sustainability in this county, and we don't want to be reinventing the wheel. We want to work as much as possible with folks in order to be helpful and supportive of programs that work. But where there are gaps, we should try to fill in as much as possible, and that's one of the things we're trying to do, is kind of identify gaps. So with that, I'll take any questions.
I have a request.
Yeah.
Okay, so when we finally do something with the Huntington parking garage, I'd like to see a plug-in for electric cars or a new garage that's going to be run by the county. We've got to start to get ready for that supply of cars that will be coming in.
Okay.
Okay, what, Director Kraus?
Just very briefly, I know that Mike Dever is working on the garage, so maybe we could mention that to Mike. I know he's met with the executive on it, so it's a good point.
Okay.
And I should say that the county agency heads have just been wonderful, and Mike Dever's been great. And we've been there are county buildings that have efficiency issues, and so one of the things we're looking at is how do we look at our own stock and try to reduce electricity costs. This building's pretty great. This is a great building, by the way. But if there's other buildings throughout the kind of county portfolio that have some issues, and so we've been meeting with Mike and others to try to look at the things we can do internally for county governmental purposes to reduce our costs.
And I'll follow up with you. There's been a request internally from one of the departments to chair up, at least for employees, a little task force to enhance what you're doing. So there's definitely interest, and I'll hook you up with that employee or department.
That'd be great.
Okay, so the last thing I want to say is how this is all connected is Mike knows is when we were talking about demo funds and how we're using demo funds, the money is going for usually a traditional $10,000 demo in the county. And when bidders come into the municipalities and they undercut that $10,000 number, it's usually where they're cutting is what they do with the debris. And they're taking it to unlicensed illegal dumping grounds. And so part of what we need this committee or you to do is to hook up with the demo, which we've already started this discussion because Solid Waste is working with the Environmental Crime Task Force to stop this illegal dumping, which is horrendous. It's out of control. There's tires. It's just mounds and mountains of debris. And when we fund this demo program and it's going to illegal dumping, and on the other side we're using money to clean that illegal dumping up, we're really just working at cross purposes. So we've got to make sure we're on the same page with the Department of Development, who's been meeting with Solid Waste. But if you can make sure that that's happening, and I'm going to have a presentation from the Environmental Crime Task Force and Solid Waste, IAMBIC, to talk about what's happening in the county because it's absolutely unbelievably horrendous. You're going to see piles of debris, just totally toxic waste going into the land and prohibiting any kind of real true cleanup because once they go in to address it, there's right around the corner there's more dumping. And so we're really trying to staff the environmental task force, which I'll bring to the committee. But I really don't want dollars going for demo and ending up in an illegal site. So that's an example of how this department and how we really need to coordinate our efforts instead of just working at cross purposes unintentionally, but it happens. So thank you so much.
We're meeting with them this afternoon, I think. So.
Okay. Yeah. And we're meeting on water tomorrow at 3.
Oh, I should add, yeah. So there's tomorrow at 3 up on the 8th floor, there's a meeting just on water issues, kind of 101, who's doing what. We've got OEPA, US EPA, the sewer district will be there. Folks are working on a water line, Cleveland Water Alliance is doing kind of water technology work. the Cuyahoga River area of concern folks are going to be in. So just kind of a 101, just going through all the, what are the issues, who's working on them, and just kind of we've got a lot of new staff here, and we're trying to, at least on the administration side and council too. So if anyone is interested, please show up at 3:00.
Thank you very much.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah, and I know that belongs to Mr. Foley, but your concept of a plug-in at the garage, are you envisioning you're going to charge for that electricity? Or
I haven't even gotten that far in my head how to
Okay, well,
do
I
that.
mean,
You probably know more than I do. Do you have a hookup? Do you have something at your
we don't have it
place?
ours, but I mean, what an awful lot of organizations have gone to, if they've gone to natural gas, which is for county vehicles and fleets, and I have done a lot of research on that, and that seems to me be an awful logical place that we ought to be moving towards, because we have so many vehicles, and the fleets, and that was going to be, if I had a different chair, that was going to be one of the things I was going to do from an environmental standpoint, that natural gas, it's the easiest thing to convert. We can flip over all of our sheriff's vehicles, we can flip over all those things, and if you want to, you will find that I'm not a curmudgeon. I do believe in the environment, but in a practical way, and one of the ways is the natural gas conversion. It's about $4,000 to $5,000 to convert every one of our sheriff's vehicles out there per vehicle, and it runs cleaner. The engine runs another couple 100,000 miles longer, and everything about it, so it's becomes very effective. But if you're going to have a plug-in, just like we wouldn't expect that we're going to subsidize the natural gas for our employees, we wouldn't suspect we're going to subsidize the gasoline purchases. We shouldn't be subsidizing the electrical purchase. And they swipe their credit card, is what they do over in Europe, and you plug in, and if you're going to plug into you're making the convenience there, then they should also be paying for the energy that's going to go into their electric vehicle.
Thank you. What about a solar charge for the electric vehicles? Is there such a thing? I'm sure.
Yeah, I don't know.
If we can go
I'm
solar
assuming
over,
there is, right?
Yeah.
There's actually been a study done on a couple of county buildings, and it hasn't been for charging electric vehicles, but it just on percentage. If we put some solar panels up on a couple of the county buildings, what percentage of electricity would take away from what we're currently paying? So we're looking at that just to see if it makes some sense. So.
you. What we're going to hear coming up in this committee as well is one of the municipalities in the county has a pilot out there for supplying energy to their lights solely on solar. And that's in pilot now, but we're waiting for the results through winter to see how that went, obviously, and we'll report back to see how that went and how we can apply that here and to other municipalities. Okay, thanks.
Is this Seven Hills?
No, I can't say, but it's
okay,
not Seven Hills.
All right, okay, great.
I know they have some solars going up in their municipal complex.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you. So is there public comment unrelated to the agenda? No. So we're going to adjourn the meeting. Thank you so much. And we'll see you on April 1st, committee at 3:00 unless the committee tells me otherwise that they want to change the time.